Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Greg Baldini. I'm a core developer with Tabular Editor, and today we've got a special webinar for you where we'll be talking about a new feature, the Semantic Bridge and Databricks Metric Views. And to help out with all of that, we've got a guest. Simon, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can do. So, Simon, I run a company called Advancing Analytics, and I have a deep and dark past in Microsoft BI. And I wrote a lot of MDX back in the day, back when that was the cool thing to do. But I've been down like the big data, lakes and warehouses, lake houses path for a long time. So I specialize in Databricks and building lakes and helping people do data engineering, but I have a deep, murky past in semantic models and traditional BI and all that good stuff.
Awesome. So as we're going through today, everyone attending, we encourage you to use the chat to talk about everything that you're seeing and use the questions feature in the application to ask questions. We'll answer those questions live at the end, Simon and myself. Hopefully we know all of the answers, but if we don't, we'll be honest about that. And today we're here to talk about semantic layers. And this is the place where you go when you want to combine data and business logic. You want to bring these things together to make sure that reporting and analysts and any consumer of data, whether that's a human or now more often AIs, all of these things come together to query data and interact with data in a way that is structured and governed. And we expect that most people on the call are pretty familiar with the tabular model in Power BI and analysis services, but Microsoft is not the only game in town. And Databricks has actually come up with their own thing. And Simon, could you take it away? Tell us a little bit about Databricks and metric views. Show us what those are and what they mean.
Yeah, I absolutely can do. So for a long time, I mean, Databricks originally, back in the day, back when I started using it, it's very much just a managed Spark provider. It's a how do you use Spark on a lake? And over time, they've added more and more richness. They've realized that trying to run any kind of data warehouse in a lake where you have no standards, no control, no governance was a terrible idea. And so slowly started building out control layer and governance and all that good stuff to get to the lake house with Unity Catalog and those good things. Um, but it was always, you get to a point when you've built a data model, you've materialized it, you've put it down into your lake, you've done all the governance around it, and then you pass it on to someone else. You pass it downstream to Power BI or to Tableau, to Looker, to whatever BI tool of choice. And you'd have people kind of defining the KPIs and using the KPIs and doing that kind of thing in very rich, very mature tools, purpose built, having a semantic model for having BI and all that kind of thing. And so I guess the next logical thing for Databricks to be doing is going, well, if we are allowing anyone to use some kind of semantic model, kind of, or any kind of consuming of the data we've made, surely you should like define things like KPIs and business logic with the data as it's held, and then you pass that downstream for people to go and use it. That's kind of where they're going with it, right? And it's very new. So metric views essentially came out kind of middle of last year, like slowly getting more and more actual production ready as the year went on. But it's a new entrant. So it's essentially Databricks trying to say you should have a metrics like a some kind of metrics layer, some kind of semantic layer further upstream than the tools that you're using to visualize it. So then if you've got agents making a decision, if you've got people trying to consume it for AI, for traditional machine learning, if people are using analytics, actually whichever direction, whichever tool they go to try and do that from, you have one central governed place that then things go and consume it. That's their sales pitch, right? And it's very new. So I can get it up. I can do a quick run through how Databricks are seeing people use it and what it currently looks like if you're in Databricks. So let me just grab my screen up. So I'm going to grab this thing here. So this is the very shiny Databricks one. Essentially, it's they took Databricks and they went, you know what, let's make it look nicer and simpler so people aren't scared of it. Because business users don't like Databricks, it's too technical, is the feedback. But they're working on, they're making it nicer and easier to use. So the whole idea, one of the big killer things they're trying to do is conversational BI is going everywhere. So they want you to be able to go into this kind of space and go, explain how OTIF differs by region. OTIF being on time and in full, it's a metric, it's a KPI commonly used by supply chain. Did my delivery get to where it needed to be, and actually was it in full? Or did I get a partial delivery and it wasn't there and I've got gaps in my supply chain? I need to go and do something to try and fix it. So this is what I'm trying to do in terms of OTIF. It's a very much business language specific calculation. That is a KPI, like the business users will understand. If I say OTIF to a data engineer, they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What are these letters? That's not a real word. So teaching it to make sure wherever I am, if I'm in Databricks, if I'm in a downstream system, that KPI is known and means the same. That's what BI people have been trying to do for years. I don't want to have 3 different people come and have different definitions and the different figures, and then no one believes in my data anymore. And then suddenly we're back in the dark ages when everything's in Excel and everything is hard coded. That's what we're trying to do. Oh, my query results is fine. Well, that's no good. Certainly right for using a history of things. I can dig in and get kind of deeper and deeper and deeper stuff. I'm assuming this is because my server's turned off, so I don't have the history of it. But you can get like that kind of real detailed analysis, and they're building more of these things where it's not just writing some queries for me. I'm saying go and actually understand my data, read some of the data inside an agent, and just push out deeper visualization stuff for me. Now, when this first came out, I was having to define it was having to stitch together tables and guess KPIs on the fly, or I was having to like leave prompts somewhere going, oh, if someone asks you about OTIF, here's the calculation in a prompt somewhere, and that doesn't make any sense, which is what metric views is all about. So I can define all these things and go, well, this is based on this thing called a metric view, essentially a semantic model inside Databricks, which has my measures defined. It has the dimensions it can use. It's got the joins. It's got all those different things that stitch this together. Essentially, it's got the core components of a semantic model, so that rather than have to try and have an agent or an AI work out what these calculations are on the fly, and they're a non-deterministic model, they're going to get things slightly different each time, and we do not want that with KPIs. That is a bad idea. So we could dig into this and go, well, actually, how do we define this stuff? So, what is my on-time delivery rates? Oh, it's just a case. It's just an expression. It's a case. It's not wrapped in a sum. Fine, easy stuff. What that actually defines in terms of metric views is they're defined in YAML behind the scenes. So if I'm trying to get this and source control it and share it and work out what it is, I've essentially got this kind of like YAML description of what are the different joins between these tables? What are the different dimensions that people can come and cut and slice and work with? And then most importantly, what are all the different measures? What are the KPIs? And part of this is just so if I'm using conversational BI, if I'm using an agent to go and understand my data, it can go and read all this and go, oh, that's how I calculate that. Great. But also it allows people to come in and cut and slice data. It allows people to go and cut things different directions. Certainly, because analytics wasn't really a heavy thing people used in Databricks a few years ago, like they didn't really understand the difference of like how you have a calculation that you can't just materialize down onto a table. You want something to be cut and sliced and recalculated based on the dimensionality that you've got in there. And that's essentially what metric views are doing inside Databricks. So define KPIs, you can document them all. They're stored inside Unity Catalog, so you've got security and governance and lineage and all that good stuff. Most importantly, they can be consumed by a bunch of stuff. And that's basically it. They are deliberately simple so that you can build them with agents, so you can build it very quickly, so you can use SQL when you're writing it, because most people using Databricks know SQL, because most people know SQL. That is their sales pitch. Kind of make sense?
Awesome, yeah, and it's great to see that other platforms are starting to learn that you do need this centralized place to govern metrics and to govern KPI definitions. That the name alone is not enough. So, oh yeah, go ahead.
It's a key point of analytics and warehousing is define it once and use it many times. The key mantra that we've used for decades.
Absolutely, yeah. And so you've just shown us that's Databricks on its own. But like I said, we've been working on a little something, and I was wondering if you could just give the brief origin story of where all of this came from and what we've been cooking.
Yeah, no, I can do. So that was my master evil plan last year with this coming along, metric views being announced, but seeing this future where like metric views and Power BI weren't really talking together. BI tools and Power BI and metric views weren't really talking to each other. And what I desperately, it's almost like sort of like Cassandra looking into the future and seeing a vision of doom coming down onto us. I was going, oh no, people are going to define a KPI in metric views, and then they're going to rebuild that KPI in Power BI, and then they're going to get out of sync. And then we're back in the Stone Ages. We are back exactly where we started. So I was like scrabbling around going, how do we solve this problem? How do we actually come up with a way of tying together multiple different semantic models and going, just share it, just synchronize these views, synchronize these metrics. How do we get over this problem? And it mainly happened kind of I think it was SQL Bits in the UK. So certainly at the lovely Excel Center where I've spent far too much of my time. And myself and Soren, CEO of Tabular Editor, we kind of grabbed a beer and I pitched my mad plan of going, why, if we're already using Tabular Editor as a way of actually giving like a developer experience, a way of like giving people building semantic models like this analytics engineering kind of persona, you can apply engineering rigor and source control and testability and repeatability to the act of building a Power BI semantic model. Oh, couldn't we kind of do the same for metric views? And if you could do the same for metric views, couldn't we get them to like talk to each other? So you could take a metric view, you can pull it out and understand what that actually means, and then actually push that into your Power BI semantic model. So you're not actually forcing the two to actually query each other if that's not the way the tools are going or if they evolve at different states, but actually using your existing tools, using the tools that, the pro code Power BI developers are already using to actually go, well, let's take that, let's twist it, let's synchronize it. And then actually it means you can end up using like the semantic model that happens to be upstream, in this case, metric views, to define your KPIs, to define your metrics, to author them so that it can be used by Genie, by agents, by other things that are happening in the data platform side of things. And then they'll just flow down into your BI layer. And then, but you get reusability. Essentially that mantra, right? Define it once, use it many, many times. And I pitched the idea desperately. And then I flounced around for a while, came back a bit later, and you guys have built it, which is perfect.
Yeah, so I unfortunately didn't get to be there for the true origin. I missed the beers, but I did get plenty of the work coming out of it. And so I have gone ahead and implemented a button. And there's a little bit more behind it, but I will show the button. This is Tabular Editor. We're looking at a new instance of Tabular Editor. There's no semantic model, nothing in here. But what we can do is we've added this opportunity to do when we open, instead of opening an existing semantic model from Tabular or from Power BI, we can now import from a Databricks Metric View YAML file. And so what we need is a path to a YAML file. Now, luckily, someone shared a nice little delivery metric view that I could use. So this is the exact same YAML that Simon was looking at earlier. And we can see the joins, the dimensions, everything that's defined in here. If we keep scrolling, we'll see that there are these measures. And some of these have some kind of gnarly SQL. Some of them are much simpler SQL. But this is the raw YAML file. And so once we have that available, we can then go in Tabular Editor. We can browse and look for that delivery YAML file. We need to provide the path to Databricks and the specific warehouse. And then we just click OK. And all of a sudden, it will tell us that it's imported this metric view. And you'll see, if we look behind this, there is some stuff in tables, some stuff in relationships, and there are also some issues. So we'll look at these diagnostics quickly. And within this, we've got a couple of things saying that measures were untranslated, saying that there was a complex expression that we weren't able to translate the SQL to DAX. And we've got a few of these. Each of these tells us about the specific measure that was not able to be translated all the way. I'll close out of those. Those diagnostics are stored. You can get to them later. But if we expand this out, we see a number of relationships have been created. And if we expand out tables, we'll see that each of these tables is also created with a number of columns. Each of these is a full tabular semantic model table with columns. All of the metadata has been populated. If we pop open one of these partitions, we'll see here that we've actually generated the M code for you that would reference that exact table from Databricks. And here's where we use those connection string details in the Databricks connection. So this is now a semantic model that could be saved and put into a Power BI solution or deployed to analysis services. We can look at the fact table as well that was automatically created. And for those simple metrics, for anything that's simple SQL, just a basic aggregation of a single field, we're able to automatically translate those from SQL into DAX. And we're actually in the midst of implementing a much more advanced parsing layer that will be able to handle more SQL in the future. But we got some messages about measures that weren't able to be translated. And so if we look at some of these, we'll see that there are more complex expressions. This here was a sum that was wrapped around a case statement in SQL. And then if we look at this case expression, we'll see that there's some complex logic in here. And this is something that's not translated yet from SQL to DAX automatically. And what we do is we just preserve it in here as a comment in the DAX so that you would be able to come in, or perhaps if you're using a helpful little AI assistant, you would be able to have that assistant work with you to translate this from SQL to DAX. But the key thing to look at here is that we've got the full structure of that metric view copied over into the semantic model. And because this is just another piece of functionality in Tabular Editor, you get full undo support as well. So I've just hit Control Z or Control Z to respect you, Simon, and your culture, Control Z here, and we've got a completely undone import. So all of those things just go away. And if I do Control Y to redo, it all comes back. So it's deeply integrated in the Tabular Editor experience. But we can go a little bit further. I didn't spend all of that time just on a button. We can do anything that you might want to do with regard to import or manipulating a metric view directly from C# scripts. And so you'll see if you open up a C# script that there is a brand new thing in here, the Semantic Bridge. That's the name of this feature. And we can get access to the metric view. And what we can do is we can then operate on this thing programmatically. So before I did a full import all in one step. But here, what I actually want to do is I just want to load this metric view and be able to manipulate that and maybe change it a little bit before I bring it into my tabular model. And so I will go to my users directory. And then in here, I've got the path to that exact same model that we were just looking at. Demos, and it was delivery.yaml. And so now what we're going to do is not the full import all at once. This is just going to load that metric view, and it'll be here available for us in C# scripts, and we'll be able to do some stuff with it. It would be very helpful if I could type all the way. I'll just open up one that I pre-baked a little bit. So I probably got the path wrong on this. I'll open up the load first, and we'll get to the import. So here I will just load this this metric view. And so you'll see it hasn't added tables or anything, but it's now there and we can now interact with it. So we can bring open some new C# scripts. And what we can do is look at, for example, something to show us this model that we've just loaded. And so that metric view is available for us exactly the way that the tabular model is available. You can access it in any C# script. And so here what we're going to do is a couple of things. What we're going to do is ultimately build up a string so that we can tell a little bit about that metric view that we've just loaded. What we're going to do is we're going to show all of the joins. We're going to show all of the dimensions. And then we're going to show all of the measure expressions. And we're just going to get a quick overview of this thing so that we can take a look at what's been loaded and what we'll be operating on. And so this is just a summary of that YAML. This would be a really good way to perhaps generate some documentation automatically. But here we've got all of the dimensions, all of the joins, and then down here we can see some of these measures with more complex expressions. One thing that you might notice though is the naming convention here. We've got underscores, and underscores are great, but for me, I want to take those out and I want to take all of these things to space separated names. And so what we've got is we've got the entire metric view available, like I said, as an object model here. So what we can do is we can run any C# script, the things that you might be used to using Tabular Editor for a tabular model, you can do with a metric view now as well. So we've got not just the import, but we've got all of this ability to operate on the metric view and programmatically edit it. So here what we're going to do is we're going to do some reporting out of what we're doing. So all of this stuff here is just building up a string telling us what the before names were. So it tells us the names of all of the dimensions and the names of all of the measures. And then the real work here is that we're going to make some renamed dimensions and renamed measures. And what we're doing, the core piece here, is that we're replacing the underscores with spaces, and we're making sure that it's title cased. We do that for all of the dimensions, and we do that for all of the measures in the metric view. And so you can see that we're just operating over those. It's view.measures, just like you would do model.all measures for a tabular model. You can do similar things to interact with the metric view. So we do those renames, and then we've got this reporting afterward showing us what the new names were. And so this is all working on that same model that we loaded and we just looked at. Here, we've run this, and it should give us a little bit of output. There we go. And we've got the before names here. All of these have the underscores. And if we look down here, the after names, all of these have spaces. So I'll close out of this. And now what we can do, we've looked at the metric view, we've edited a little bit, and now what we want to do is, after we've made those changes, now we want to do the import. And so if we look over here on the left, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import this metric view. And again, I'm going to give the same path information, the name of the Databricks connection, and then the specific warehouse I'll be connecting to. And then we can also capture those diagnostics that we saw when there were issues before. And when I run this, what we'll see is that the tables that are created over here on the right and the fields and the measures within are going to have space separated names. So I run this, we get those same diagnostics we saw before because this is about the complexity of the SQL. That hasn't changed. But now when we look at these tables and we look at all of the dimensions and measures in here, these are space separated and title cased. So we've got not just the ability to do this import, but we can programmatically inspect and edit and even do validations and re-exporting the metric views. So you can get new YAML out after you've gone through one of these editing cycles. And so this is just a quick tour of some of the pieces that are within the semantic bridge to bring metric views into a tabular model. And we've got this tabular model that we can then use anywhere that you might do. And so that's what we've been cooking. And Simon, you had the idea. You made some suggestions. And do you like the meal that you see after all of that?
Absolutely right, because it's I've had this conversation with a few people, and they've said, well, but in this day and age, wouldn't you just like sling this to an LLM to like translate it for me? And like I think the whole point being like the ability to script it, the ability to have those elements which is repeatable and testable. So it's not just a one-off. It's not just saying, oh, I've got a metric view, I need to make a semantic model out of it. It's I want to build a repeated, tested, like SLDC style pipeline that I can go and update my metric view, run the exact same script, and get a repeated, tested output down every single time without rolling a dice of using a non-deterministic solution to try and go, this will be the same next time I run it, right? And it's like that idea of making it so it is a bulletproof way of handling a programmatic synchronization between two devices is how you make this trusted. And we're talking KPIs, we're talking data, we're talking business logic. Trusted is the underlying message behind all of it. So yeah, I'm a happy bunny. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to connect to every single semantic model that's ever been made and translate between all of them. But yeah, being able to author things inside Unity Catalog and metric views and then spread it out to Power BI, it certainly makes my job a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, and I'll just say to you and everyone on the webinar, stay tuned for what's coming. This is under active development and more is coming soon. I would encourage everyone in the chat, make sure that you're asking questions using the questions feature, engage in that chat. But I do want to talk very briefly about some of the stuff that's upcoming in the Semantic Bridge, and then also talk a little bit more about some of the use cases that we see and also that you see, Simon, in this technology. So what you saw today was importing a version 0.1 metric view. And so that's the initial spec that came out last summer. And there's now a v1.1 with some more metadata, friendlier display names, some format strings, and some additional types of measures that you can use windowing expressions with as well. So those things are all getting support in a future soon release of Tabular Editor. We've got the v1.1 support so that you can use any of that metadata in addition to the v0.1 things that you saw. And we'll also be working on a more enhanced GUI, a GUI, to be able to do that import and show some of those diagnostics in a little bit friendlier way, and perhaps deal with multiple metric views at a time. And we're also looking to where we can expand from just the workflows that you saw today. And again, I encourage everyone to ask questions in the chat, ask questions in the questions for the webinar. But Simon, I've got some thoughts about where I see this going and what we can use this for. But I'd really like to hear from you. What are the use cases you're seeing with your customers? What are some things that you think in terms of a workflow that you might be using Semantic Bridge or this idea of multi-platform analytics?
I mean, so for us, certainly we see lots of people trying to build more agentic systems into their upstream work. So not everything is working on a star schema, essentially. So you have people who are, maybe you've got a feature store. So you kind of, you brought your data, medallion architecture stuff, you've had some data, you've cleansed it, you've got a set of validated clean data, and then you're making some star schemas, and that's going down into BI tools. But there's people building full decision workflows and things that are working off a real-time stream of data and all that kind of stuff, which you wouldn't necessarily get in your downstream BI systems, and trying to get them to make decisions. And that the way everything's gone with agentic workflows is it's no longer about giving the data to a human so the human looks at it and goes, I'm going to make a call on that. It's about going, can we automate more decisions by putting this kind of information in the hands of various different tools? So we're seeing like crazy things with an agent. You're giving it skills to go and talk to some of the analytic systems. You're giving it skills to be able to go and scrape through the governance layer and look up KPIs and look up how things work. You're also giving it the ability to join into an MCP server and get other data sets on the fly. And like that is huge in terms of having it be able to talk the same language and parlance as the business users consuming data. So yeah, kind of it's for me, it is just about keeping the two systems in sync. It's about making sure they can talk to each other. I want to be able to have like analytics is put the analytics in the hands of the business users. I don't care how they access it. I don't care what tool their preferred is. Obviously, I have my preferences, but if I'm fighting the business user and bonking them on the head, going, "You're not allowed to use that tool," well, I'm just fighting where the business actually want to access data, and that's the future of analytics is not trying to go to a user going, "You have to come to a dashboard, and I'm going to tell you where you're allowed to go and see it." It's meeting the user wherever they are. If they're in Teams, if they're in Slack, if they're in chats, if they're on the phone, wherever it is, there should be analytics in their face to like helping them make any decisions they make or making decisions for them. And keeping these systems in sync to be able to do that just means we get a step closer to that journey. So I'm trying to go big picture.
Well, what would you say to? I've heard this question a lot. What would you say to people who say or ask the question, why should I use multiple platforms? Like, why should I use Databricks and Power BI? Why do I need a bridge? Why don't I just use one platform? I've heard that question a lot, but I'd love to hear what you think about something like that.
Essentially, every platform wants to be one platform. Over time, obviously, Fabric wants to be able to be everything for everybody. Databricks wants to be everything for everybody. Snowflake wants to be everything for everybody. Reality of the system is lots of companies are just bigger than that. It is incredibly rare that there's a company that kind of isn't so big that actually that you've got different departments, you've got different politics, you've got different regions, you've got trying to get that organizational coordination to go, guys, scrap everything. We're all going the exact same thing. It just doesn't really happen very often. There's usually some kind of compromise that has to be made there. One's AI platform might be better, but the engineering platforms like maybe slightly worse, or maybe it's better at doing some like the shiny dashboard thing, but it's not as good as doing streaming stuff. And it's if you try and go for a single system, one, there's a huge amount of politics and getting everyone on board is hard. But two, you have to make a compromise somewhere. And the reality is there's different people have different wants and different needs. And if it means people use data, I will happily bend over backwards to make that happen, even if it makes my life harder having to keep systems in sync. It's not about me. It's about the people
Mhm.
actually using the data to make decisions. That's takes a while to get there as a techie. I was like, no, that's not a technically perfect system. It has to be good technically. And eventually you realize, no, it has to be used. There's no point in having the most beautifully crafted, like the most Kimball star schema in the world, and every KPI is perfect if they don't use it. Because it's
Mhm.
about people engaging and using data. And yeah, that involves compromises and more technical workarounds and bridges and things to keep things in sync. Great, that is pain I will accept if it means people use the data.
Yeah, and that's something that was a recurring theme for me in my own consulting days as well, is the need to meet people where they are. And I've also never seen a large organization or even a mid-sized organization truly adopt one platform. I've seen many, many attempts, but I've always seen that there are multiple ways to consume data, multiple places, multiple platforms that people want to use. And so I agree with you completely. We've really got to find a way to meet people where they are, or perhaps to bridge the divide, as it were.
I always refer to the XKCD kind of meme of we've got Oh, we've got 9 different standards. We're going to make one standard to rule them all. Oh, we've got 10 different standards. It's the same with data platforms. It's right, we're
Mhm.
going to get rid of our 4 legacy data platforms. We're going to get a new data platform. Oh, we've now got 5 data platforms. And, you know, migrations is a hard sell because business users don't get benefits from migrations. You get organizational cost savings and consolidation, but your actual people in the coal face of running the business functions, they don't see value from consolidating various different systems. So you have to
Mhm.
be trickling value and giving them actually benefits so they can get better and they can make better decisions. They can be more competitive. The business can be more competitive. And a lot of that is about making compromises.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've got a few questions that have been curated here for us to answer live. I'll go through these, and Simon, definitely feel free to chime in as we're talking through these. So the first question is from Steve, asking if there's a flag or some way to always preserve originals, even for a translation that succeeded. The use case they're thinking about is the ability to cross-check if a problem is detected downstream. So this is talking about the SQL to DAX translation layer that we're doing. So right now, like you saw in the demo, the things that weren't automatically translated are the things that are being preserved as a comment in the DAX expression. Things that we translated automatically and we're able to do so aren't going into anywhere. So that is actually a really great question. We've talked about a couple of things where we might track a little bit more metadata, either as tabular annotations, but I think it also might be a good idea. And Steve, feel free to ping back in the chat if you like the sound of this. And Simon, I'd love to hear if you like the sound of it. Perhaps we just keep the original SQL in a comment always. And the question is only, do we also include some uncommented DAX? So if we can translate it, you get DAX and a comment. And if we can't translate it, you just get that comment. I think that would be a very visible way to be able to see it. But it's a good question. Right now, it's not visible, but I think we definitely need to do a little bit more about observability on that translation pipeline. Simon, what would you want to see as a user?
I mean, yeah, for me, certainly, anytime there's a question about did we translate this right, I want to see documentation. I want to see what the original was. It's a check. Unless it is like 100% complete feature parity, there's no questions asked. Of course, that's the same. Don't even worry about it. But then even then, if there's no real overhead to adding there's nothing wrong with more documentation and more lineage and more discovery for developers. And God, I wish everyone just documented every decision they made. So generally, I am all for comments and preservation of thinking. Our rationale behind this was X, Y, Z. Great, include it.
Awesome. Yeah. So great feedback, and we'll definitely take that into account as we're moving forward. The next question that we've got here is from Edward. It says, would we be able to fetch a metric view from a repository like GitHub instead of some local intermediate step, foreseeing situations where a metric view would be updated and there might be teamwork or collaboration across these updates? So right now, what's live in the product is being able to work with local YAML files. So if it were in GitHub or if it were in some other repository, you would need to clone that repository locally and then work from the YAML there. Just like any other source code, I don't know that we would ever want to build a direct integration with GitHub or with other source forges like that. I think we would just count on Git cloning into your local file system. But we do want to have, and we've got on our backlog, the ability to connect live to Databricks, just like you can connect live to a tabular model and interact with that via the XML endpoint. We would want to connect via API to the Databricks instance and then pull down specific YAML definitions. So that's in our backlog and something that you'll see from us in the future, but not in the live version today. The next question we had was from Marla, asking, after the model is created, if the underlying metric view is changed, how do you update the existing model that may have been enhanced in TE3? So right now, again, like you saw, it was that import workflow. If there are updates, you can import again. You can also import multiple metric views into a single semantic model. The tabular model supports multiple fact tables and so on. This is something right now where you'll see if you import the same model twice, or if you import two models that have some shared pieces. Right now, you'll get duplicates of those. In the future, we do want to build that multi-import workflow, both for repeated runs. And Simon, you and I have talked a little bit about what that might look like to edit a model as a metric view, then get new versions of a metric view, and want to bring those all into one tabular model. And there are a couple of things we're looking at, and this is going to tie right back into that documentation or annotations that we capture to be able to say what was our original translation and what's our new translation, and also, did the user do anything to the tabular model in between? So it's something we've chatted about. Definitely, I'd love to hear from you, Simon, the sort of workflows that you think about when we chatted about those things. It's not in the feature, it's not in the product yet, but that is something that we will be working on in the future, is this kind of multi import, whether it's multiple different models or one model repeatedly over time. But we had chatted about that a little bit. So Simon, what do you think about this idea of maintaining that continuity across a model over time?
Yeah, I mean, it does get tricky. Certainly, if you mention it, people make downstream changes to the tabular model you're trying to sync to, they, I mean, obviously, as a user and not the person having to actually build this damn thing, uh, I would want a magical scenario where people make changes on either side, it picks it up, it flags it, and sends me an alert, and it just cross syncs them and tells me it's done it. That would be, well, nirvana, but that's that is managing a complex set of user behavior. And also, you don't necessarily want things to auto trigger. So it goes into but now it has to be a human in the loop. There has to be a deliberate decision going, there's a change. Like, certainly what you should be doing. I mean, you don't have to put a metric view into source control. You can create it through the UI, and then it's just
Mhm.
floating around and live in Unity Catalog, and that is terrifying. You shouldn't have access to do that in prod. Um, but I see it more as kind of like a pull request activity, right? So if I if I do a pull request of a change in a metric view into my live prod branch, and then that triggers a deployment that goes off and pushes things in. At the very least, I'd want to trigger that to kick off a workflow, but a ticket in someone's bucket going, there's been a push, you need to know and go and do it, and just let people know. You can build that into your dev cycle if you have a professional dev cycle, and everyone managing this stuff should. Um, Ideally, that would then trigger an automated kind of post commit that goes and triggers the workflow. And then I open Tabular Editor and it goes, hey, we've got an import. We flagged all the changes. How do you want to handle the stuff that we've not planned for? That would be great for me. The closer we get down that line. But there's like just process stuff you can put at the start, just which you can just build yourself depending on what your SLDC kind of life cycle is, just to go, the definition of done for a metric update story includes, have you done the sync to the downstreams? That's just process.
Mhm. And I think that ties in with another question we can hear from Morgan. The question is there a capability to link this YAML file to a Git repository? And Simon, I mean, you already answered that, is you should absolutely be putting all of these things into a Git repository. That would really be an operation outside of Tabular Editor. It should be in Git, and then from Tabular Editor, you would open from Git, or you would interact with that file in Git. And then the second part of that question was keen to hear if a KPI is updated in Databricks, how would it flow through into Power BI without intervention or with minimal intervention? And again, Simon, you already answered that one, is that this sort of thing should be based on your source control repository. If you're using GitHub Actions, if you're using Azure DevOps with a pipeline, that should be triggered automatically whenever you're raising pull requests about these things. So if the YAML is updated, it gets deployed into Databricks. It should also, as part of that PR or as a downstream process, there should be some pipeline or build that then runs this import and runs this translation. And this is getting a little bit further afield, but for Tabular Editor 3, we do have a command line interface that's coming. It's in development right now and will be released soon. And when that's available, then you would be able to use Tabular Editor in the command line as part of one of these build pipelines. So you could have the YAML, and then the YAML gets edited and there's a PR that's raised. Part of your automatic actions that happen when the PR is raised could be call the Tabular Editor 3 command line using the semantic bridge and output the BIM file or the TIMDL file of the semantic model. And then you've got this artifact that you can work with and that you can do these changes to, or that you can just approve and let it be auto-deployed alongside the metric view. So I think, Simon, you weren't answering that question, but you did answer Morgan's already.
I mean, I didn't want to spoil your command line kind of secret plans, but absolutely right. That's the way I'd want it to work, and especially going from the same way. Anytime there is a build artifact in a co-promotion thing, you don't want to kind of deploy the artifact to a place and then pull it down from there and push it to the next one. You build the artifact once, you use the artifact in test, you test it, you then take that same artifact that was built and push it to different environments. Right? You shouldn't be rebuilding code. So the same with a metric
Mhm.
view, you shouldn't be getting your YAML metric view, deploying that to Databricks, and then having Tabular to scrape it from the deployed one. You've got a code artifact that's already in your source control, and it's just a promotion process. It's just a promotion process in a different direction that involves
Yep.
the translation step. I mean, it's the way,
Absolutely.
the glorious future I look forward to.
All right, we've got a question from Mads as well, talking about the interaction between Power BI and Databricks' case sensitivity, whereas Power BI is case insensitive by default in terms of the values in the fields, and Databricks is case sensitive by default for values in fields. We actually aren't setting collation on the tabular model. That is probably just a bug that I should fix later today or tomorrow, that we set the collation of the tabular model that we create, because tabular does support case-sensitive collations, and that is, we should just set that on the way in. So really great question, and I'll add that to the backlog. That should be a pretty easy one. We're generating everything about the semantic model. It'll be easy enough to change that setting as well. We've got another question here from Edward asking, perhaps this is coming. How does this look in Power BI Desktop? Looking forward to see measures and calculation groups. So this would work today in Power BI Desktop. A semantic model, that tabular model, is the same model across analysis services and across Power BI. So as soon as you've got something in Tabular Editor, that can be pushed into Power BI, that can be pushed to an analysis services instance on-prem, or it could be pushed to Azure Analysis Services. These are all the same underlying model. If you were to, for example, just open Power BI Desktop and attach Tabular Editor, then when you import, it's going straight into that Power BI model. So this doesn't necessarily have to be a brand new thing. The demo I showed, we started with an empty semantic model, but you could connect to Power BI and import the metric view definition straight into it and then start using it right away. All right, and I believe that's all the questions that I see here in our chat. So with that, Simon, I'll give it to you for any last words you might want to share before we sign off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a sneaky question in the chat which I'll kind of just quickly address, which is best practices for creating metric views. Just make a good star schema. Talk to the business. It's the classics. The same as about how do you build the best analytics model. It's speak to the business users about the problems they're trying to solve. Ask them the questions. What user questions do you have that you need this to be able to answer? And if you've designed it using their language, their semantics, if it's built in a way that they understand what things are explicitly, you're going to have a good model. If you try and stick to a star scheme, you now have the ability to do snowflaking, that kind of thing in a metric view. But the same as ever, try not to. If you can simplify it and just have a fairly simple star schema that actually articulates the business process and the business problem they're trying to ask questions around, that's going to work the best in Genie. It's going to work the best in Databricks. It's going to be simplest to maintain, and it's going to flow downstream into Power BI the most easily. So yeah, that's generally the way. So yeah, I do encourage people to take a look. If you're using Databricks, go and have a look at it, especially if you're using Genie and the conversational BI stuff, because you can use Genie without it. It's just you're then relying on AI to infer and extrapolate what you're asking for. If you've got a metric view behind the scenes, it's already got the KPI definitions. It's going to use the same one every single time, rather than rolling a dice with a non-deterministic, probabilistic, stochastic model to come out and guess what you're trying to ask. Just define things up front, and you'll have a much better time. And yeah, have people try it out.
All right, awesome. So thanks so much, Simon, for joining us and explaining so much about metric views. And thank you, everyone, for joining. We appreciate you spending a little bit of your afternoon, morning, or evening with us. Thanks all, and bye.